This video is sponsored by War Thunder, more about them later in the video. See, over the years it was proven again and again that the music and media company Riot can also sometimes make good games. But their specialty is definitely cinematic media, as is obvious from the quality. Jokes aside, ever since the original reveal of Arcane, Riot has been really good at keeping the hype around it up pretty much till today. But while all the eyes were on Arcane as their main cinematic project, many people failed to realize that something else might have been secretly developed in the background. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Riot is likely working on a live-action movie. This was originally teased quite a while ago, but recently it was pretty much confirmed in Riot's latest post about the company's reconstructions. Now, simply mentioning live action in the gaming sphere is very scary, and we'll get to why later in this video. First, we have to cover why people believe there is a live action movie in the works. And it all begins more than 3 years ago in April 2021, a whole 7 months before the release of Arcane 1. Of course, the original job listings have been taken down since then, but thankfully there are a lot of posts on Reddit that archived all of it. Anyway, that's right, it all began before Arcane 1 was even out, which is why all of this was masked so well. Back then, Riot started looking for the global head to lead live-action movies and TV. Now remember the specific title of this job, because it will come up later. And the reason why originally people didn't really think much of it is because around this time people still had no idea what Arcane would be like. Which means most people thought that this is simply related to some more niche jobs around Arcane, or even a job that could be looking at how Arcane can move on. So most people didn't believe Riot had more projects that would be in the works at the same time, but rather they thought all of these jobs were related to Arcane. They were simply not ready to go to war with the idea that something was going on. And speaking of war never changes. Unless it gets patches and updates, and then it changes all the time. And such is the case with War Thunder, today's sponsor. Have you ever wanted to feel like you are in the midst of a historic battlefield, but modern takes on the war genre just won't cut it? Well, enjoy the most comprehensive vehicle combat you can find by trying War Thunder. Here you have over 2,500 planes, ships, tanks and helicopters, all from 10 different nations, and even ranging from the vehicles of our forefathers to the most modern of tanks. But of course, the vehicles are not just a polished spectacle. They are all incredibly detailed and realistic, offering an incredible X-ray vision that shows you the damage you cause. With each individual part, such as the engine, the fuel tanks, and even the crew having their own individual hitboxes. So even the most dedicated historic fans can enjoy a piece of authenticity here. And you know it's authentic because the fans of this game accidentally leak classified military documents to make this game better. With a worldwide community with over 70 million players, the battlefield around you is quickly filled with drivers and pilots to make up the most breathtaking scenes. And with each customizing their vehicle to their own liking. How do I know about all of this? My father-in-law actually really likes this game, and it's really funny that I finally get to talk about this. So what are you waiting for? Try War Thunder right now on PC, PlayStation and Xbox using my link below. By signing up right now on any platform, you'll get a massive bonus pack that is available for all new players and returning players who haven't played for 6 months. This includes a bunch of premium vehicles, an exclusive vehicle decorator, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. So don't wait, it's limited. So once again, massive thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video, and now back to other kinds of live action. So it was the end of 2021, Riot was filling up some sketchy live action positions, and at this time Riot already announced Arcane 2, which means people somehow remained skeptical. And they still believed that all of these jobs could be related to Arcane. But then, besides just looking for someone to work in this field, Riot's then CEO, Nicolo, revealed Riot's plans for the next 5 years. And here we can find some interesting mentions. For example, we got this quote. Looking at the next few years, sure, we'll launch other games, there will be Arcane Season 2, maybe more, and a bunch of surprises. Of course, related to Arcane 2. This means that at that time, Riot either wasn't sure if there would be more seasons of Arcane, or Nicolo knew that it would be only 2 seasons and he didn't want to spoil it. But then, most importantly, Nicolo also set up the goals for the next 5 years. And among these goals, we have this. Unleash fandom. We'll create groundbreaking gameplay, game events and features to refine fandom across esports, TV, movies, music, live experiences, merch, and more. And here, people started getting suspicious, because neither movies nor TV really describes Arcane. But at the same time, cinematic experiences or animations were not mentioned at all. Though that could be because Arcane 2 was directly mentioned before. Regardless, this is where the gears started spinning and people started noticing that not everything lines up towards Arcane only. In fact, it seemed like Riot was forging their own cinematic universe in the background. Though even now, we technically don't know if it is related to League. The funny thing is, it can also be some live action for Valorant for all we know. But that finally takes us to the big news from 2 weeks ago. A new update from Riot as a company called "We are updating our internal structure to better connect games with esports, music and publishing." That title rolls off the tongue. And this is where things are getting interesting. Because the first piece of news we got here is that John Needham, who was the president of esports at Riot, now moved on to be the president of publishing and esports. Meaning that besides esports and technology, he will oversee pretty much all kinds of media, from music to cinematic stuff. And the post then continues. Riot's TV and film development will now be led through 2 distinct studios, run by Christian Link, animation. This of course is the showrunner and the co-creator of Arcane, I'm pretty sure everyone knows him, and Brian Wright, live action. Yeah, remember how in 2021 they were looking for the head of live action movies and TV? Well, 3 years later, not only did they find someone, but here's your confirmation that live action is happening. And we get this quote on top of it. With 2 focused entertainment studios, players will get to see a world beyond Arcane in fresh and immersive ways. Which further confirms that we are likely not dealing with animations here anymore. We are moving on to other cinematic styles. With at least one nail in this theory being this quote. Separately, we are creating 2 distinct entertainment studios that will allow for more dedicated resources. And greater focus on both animation excellence and the exploration of live action projects. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are looking for a direct quote that would confirm it, here it is. Live action is happening. But we are still not done because there is one last quote that we can mention here. At the very bottom of the post, we get a short background for each of the heads of the studios. Here we can learn about John Needham, Christian Link, but most importantly, we also learn about the head of live action, Brian Wright. And here it says, Brian will lead the development of new live action projects as the head of Riot's live action studio. Since joining Riot in 2021, shortly before Arcane's global launch, Brian has been developing a slate of potential projects based on our existing lore and narrative. First of all, since it mentions 2021, it absolutely means he got in from the original job listing. But also it mentions that Brian is working on projects based off of Riot's lore. The thing is, League is still not directly mentioned. So there could be a tiny chance that it is based off of Valorant. However, before this it mentioned that they will be exploring stories beyond Arcane, which could hint we are still dealing with the League of Legends universe. But then the post still goes on. prior to Riot Games, he was at Netflix, where he was the head of family and young adult programming, launching successful series such as Stranger Things, The Umbrella Academy, and Shadow and Bone. Now, first things first, Netflix was mentioned. And here we know that Riot already had a pretty good relationship with Netflix. I mean, even prior to become the #1 Netflix show all around the world, Riot was able to strike a deal with them so that people could stream the first 3 episodes of Arcane as they launched. That was a really big deal. And besides that, it mentioned that Brian launched Stranger Things, The Umbrella Academy, and Shadow and Bone. You know what all of these have in common? They are all technically live action, but they also have fantasy elements, which is pretty much exactly what we can find in the League of Legends universe. And here is where I want to mention the one last thing that I mentioned at the very beginning of this video. Live action movies are scary because they rarely succeed around video games. And I can't think of a better comparison than the Warcraft movie here. It was a live-action movie from a heavy fantasy universe, where the live-action and the CGI is pretty good. But the story is not that great. But thankfully, Riot is kinda good at dealing with this. First of all, Arcane proved that they know how to handle a complex story. And they can even simplify it for the broader audience. Yes, I said it! Considering all the stories that are happening all around Zaun, Arcane is definitely a simplified version of the story this universe can offer. I mean, Riot still definitely has a pool of at least 15 more characters that they could put into Arcane. So, I don't believe their live action is gonna fall into the trap of their story not being great for the broader audience. And at the same time, it is worth mentioning that Riot is really good at breaking video game curses. I mean, before Arcane, there has never really been a mainstream media that broke out into the world that would be based on a video game. Essentially, all the video game movies were cursed. But after Arcane, all the movie producers realized that they can make a good movie based on a video game. But that is if they keep their focus around the core of the video game. And suddenly we got one good movie after another. So now we have to put a bit of trust in Riot and hope that they can break the live action curse too. And so, here you have it. Some pretty big news and the confirmation that there is gonna be some live action stuff. Whether it's a Netflix series or a movie, we still don't know. But one thing is certain, Riot is not afraid to burn a lot of money to make it great. And as a fun fact, there is also a theory floating around the internet that Riot might also be working on their own anime, which would be also jumping on a new trend that is pretty successful. So guys, you better start buying all the skins because we have to fund all of this somehow. Once again, massive thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. Make sure to use the link in the description to get some goodies and dive into the battlefield. Can you tell I have kids?